Hey, what's up, everybody? I suppose you're wondering why I haven't posted the 40th day in our 40-day walk with Jesus. Well, for one, I got really rather wrapped up in everything of Holy Week and Easter and everything. But two, it really is fitting to approach this 40th day as not the end of 40 days, but as the beginning of the rest. It's the beginning of the next new things. It's not all about bunnies or chocolate or eggs or anything of that. It's all about the resurrection. Matthew 28 is Matthew, his account of the resurrection. And what I love is there's this little piece called the Report of the Guard. And in it, it says that while the women were going, behold, some of the guard went into the city, took and told the chief priests all that had taken place. When they had assembled with the elders and taken counsels, they gave a sufficient sum of money to the soldiers and asked, "Tell people, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. And if it comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him too." So they took the money, did as they were directed, and this story has been spread among the Jews ever since, to this day. I mean, this is the greatest cover-up ever. Because if Jesus rises from the dead, then it means so much more for you and for me than if he doesn't rise from the dead. And so the religious leaders at that time, they try to cover it all up. They try to make light of this Jesus. But the fact of the matter is we have many more accounts. Even Paul makes note of it in 1 Corinthians 15, that there were over 500 witnesses of these things, of Jesus' resurrection. Now in a courtroom, you go through all the witnesses of an accident, and you look for the thread of truth within each one, and that thread of truth helps you to determine the evidence. It helps you to determine whether or not someone is being truthful in their testimony. Well, if Paul had 500 some witnesses, and he's walking through all of these accounts, and he took the time to look for that thread of truth, and he says very firmly that Jesus Christ has risen from the dead, then by golly, if it's good enough for a courtroom, it's darn well good enough for me. To know that the account that the Gospels record and what Jesus does when he meets Paul on the road, and the stories through the book of Acts and everything else, they add up to this. Jesus has power over sin, over death, over Satan, and done. And that means that when we keep reading, and Jesus comes to his disciples and says, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching to obey all that I have commanded you, and I am with you always to the end of the age," then we can take that to the bank, my friends. Then we can go and make disciples, because we don't want people to know that death is end. Death is just a momentary setback to the rest of the new, renewed life we have in Jesus. And it means that we get to make everything, we get to make every moment of every day a moment lived for Jesus. A moment lived in his grace. A moment lived for what's important. A moment lived in grace. So, what's God calling you to do as we reach the end of these 40-day devos? And get ready for the next set of what God has to bear. My prayer is that we're going and making disciples, that we're baptizing people in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and that we're teaching them all that Jesus commanded us. That we're obeying. So I hope you've enjoyed this journey with us. It's been exciting to get to this point. And I am excited about what God has in store. What the next step in our adventure with him is. And what he wants us to be seeking and doing through the rest of this year. My prayers with you. Have a great day and a great start into the rest of what God's got in store for you. God's peace. We'll see you later.